Hello, welcome to Challenger Tabletop. I'm Christopher, and I have a bit more energy than usual today. Also made myself a nice latte. It's super hot right now, so probably have to wait a minute to enjoy that. Well, welcome back. Gonna continue batch painting some catachans today, and I have the... Oh hey, welcome Space Sket. Good to have you here. First time chatter, awesome. Today I thought we'd talk about 40K Burnout, that thing that occasionally hits people in the hobby where the enjoyment just seeps away a little bit. I know it's kind of a bummer topic, so happy to chat about whatever other 40K stuff you want to talk about. And these catachans I'm painting today are going to be part of a unit of conscripts. So I'll show you what some of the finished ones look like. Wake up camera. There we go. All right, these are some of the old Rogue Trader, what are they called? Penal troopers. Basically prisoners who have explosive collar on, forced to fight on the front lines for Imperial Guard. And I'm going to be painting the Catachans to go with these guys in a unit as conscripts. Basically low morale Imperial Guard infantry who only have las guns. And so far I started with the bases off camera, and then I yesterday was painting these gray pants and did gray vests on some of them, so thought I'd jump into skin tone today. Time to talk about the lore. Yeah, it sounds fun. Be happy to talk about lore, one of my favorite topics, as I do play narrative 40k. I'm not super knowledgeable like some people are. I haven't read many books. Mostly get my information from the codexes and YouTube. But I know a fair amount about most 40k stuff. And yeah, what are you interested in? Talk about Space Scat. I was just kind of experiencing some 40k burnout yesterday, so cut my live stream a little bit short, and kind of feel like I'm running out of stuff to subject matter for my live streams, so I think that was part of my feeling of burnout. Are you doing some hobby stuff tonight? If you play 40k, what armies do you play? Always interested to hear. Basically, I'm going to be painting these guys 3 different skin tones. Got this kind of light pink flesh here. Then I have XV88 is kind of a medium brown. And then I have some Gorthor brown. It's a bit darker. And then I have some ink washes or shade paints I'll be painting over these to get them looking a little more natural. One of my favorite lore tidbits is that back in the day, Horus didn't die during the Horus Heresy. He actually escaped back into the Eye of Terror after being mortally wounded by the Emperor. But I guess that's been retconned since then. To now he's definitely died. So they say. I also kind of enjoy the idea that everything we're told about 40k in the lore might be propaganda, and some people kind of pick and choose what they want to believe and have their headcanon here and there where they feel like the Imperium or the official story may not be accurate. This guy's kind of cool. He's got his weapon strap wrapped around his hand while he's wielding it single-handed. His las gun. Okay, you play PC games, so no physical armies, but the race I like the most is Tau. Cool. Well, Tau are about to hit their second golden age here in Warhammer 40k, as their new codex seems like it's going to be super powerful. I played 40k back in 8th edition when Tau were super nasty. And I had some pretty rough experiences playing against Tau back in the day. There was a player at the local hobby shop who had switched from Magic cards to 40k. And he played Tau, and then he started allying Tau and Space Wolves. And I could not beat that guy. Part of it was that he had very carefully chosen what army he was going to collect and what units he was going to build and what his army composition was going to be like pretty much before he started buying any models, whereas I was just kind of a casual Space Marine collector with just kind of a hodgepodge of infantry units for the most part. And I could not stand up to Tau crisis suits with 3 plasma guns each, doing a jump forward and shoot and then jump back every turn. That was brutal. I did eventually get 1 tie against him, but I never beat him. I think our record was he won 9 games and we got 1 tie. And eventually I told him, call me when you've got your army painted, because he never painted any of the models. And I never heard from him again after that. But basically, my feeling was, okay, it's alright if you kick my ass every game, but at least I want to see that you put some effort into making your army look good, so I can at least enjoy the aesthetics of the board while I'm picking up all my models as casualties. I do feel like the game is a lot more fun when both armies are well painted and you're playing on a nice table with a bunch of terrain. Yeah, railgun OP. Doesn't the railgun do 2 wound damage? The railgun is actually going to be doing a 3-sided dice, so that's a d6 divided in half, plus 6 damage. And then if it hits, I can't remember if it hits or if it wounds, it does automatically 3 mortal wounds in addition. And invulnerable saves cannot be taken against it. So if you rolled minimum damage, that would be 1 plus 6, that's 7 damage, plus the 3 mortal wounds, you'd be looking at 10 damage minimum, basically. Which is enough to destroy a lot of vehicles in one hit. And with obscenely high strength and armor piercing and no invulnerable saves allowed, it's pretty much gonna kill whatever it hits. It'll be really excellent for killing characters too, because most characters rely on an invulnerable save for defense, or have one. And pretty much almost no character has 10 wounds, so it'll pretty much one-shot any character you can target with it. Except a few characters like Gazkul, who have a rule that limits how many wounds you can deal to them every turn. But those are pretty rare. I did do an episode on the fan or Facebook group ranking of all the 40k video games, although the poll was from a couple years ago, so I think it was the most recent game on the poll would have been Deathwing, Space Hulk Deathwing. But what are your favorite Warhammer 40k games, Space Sket? I'm going to guess something from Dawn of War series, Dawn of War 1 or 2, or is it Space Marine? Or are you playing some of the newer stuff? I think there's one that came out that's kind of like another team survival game battling in the sewers against, I don't know what, Gene Stealer Cult or something? That looked pretty cool. And I was surprised how many 40k video games there are that I had pretty much never really been aware of. It was fun going through them all. Yeah, Dawn of War games. That's cool. The mods in Dawn of War 1 makes it really enjoyable. Well, if I was going to go back and play a game I missed, Dawn of War 1 would be pretty high up on the list. I got into Dawn of War 2. Never played Dawn of War 1, and I really liked Dawn of War 2, but I always hear great things about Dawn of War 1, and I actually did watch some Dawn of War 1 competitive play on YouTube back in the day, so I am somewhat of a fan of Dawn of War 1 as well. It's cool you like the mods. What's your favorite mod? I have played some pretty cool mods in my day for other games. One of my favorite games is Medieval 2 Total War. And there's an amazing Lord of the Rings mod for that called Third Age Total War that I played quite a bit and loved. And I've made some mods. I'm a video game developer at times. And I made a Lord of the Rings mod of Axis and Allies that was somewhat popular among the AAA community, which is Axis and Allies clone, basically. Unification and Ultimate Apocalypse. I've heard of the Ultimate Apocalypse mod. Unification mod for balance, then Ultimate Apocalypse for all the Titans. Oh, cool. That sounds neat. I'm looking forward to playing my Orc Stompa in upcoming game of 40k tabletop. I've had it painted for a while now. Wasn't feeling well on Tuesday, or I probably would have broken it out then. But I've been playing Warhammer 40k on the channel on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Trying to keep that up. We'll see, may mess with the schedule a bit coming up here soon, but for now, trying to stick to those days. Well, we got one guy pretty much finished with flesh tone here. I'm kind of going ahead and doing a second coat on him, but maybe I'll come back to that and just start on the next guy here. And the plan is to do light color flesh tone on about 5 or 6 guys, and then move to the mid tone, and then move to the dark tone. So we're just kind of staying consistent with the first color here on several guys in a row. That's kind of the theory of batch painting, is to pick a color, paint it on several models in a row, and then move on to the next color. And I have my paint watered down on purpose, but it's not giving me great coverage because of that at the moment. Trying to aim for 2 thin coats of paint, watered down so it doesn't obscure the details on the model too much. You consider getting into 40k Tau space get. And what are you up to tonight? Now, it looks like this guy is wearing a vest, so I probably shouldn't have painted skin tone on his back. Oops. We'll just paint over that later. This guy has like a pocket strapped to his arm pouch. An arm pouch. Knowing Catachans has probably got some cigarettes or something in there. Oh, hey, Blendon, great to see you. Space Cat, I'm doing nothing, and maybe in a couple of years, as GW likes money. Yeah, that's true. Well, in a couple years, you'll probably be able to get everything 3D printed affordably, hopefully. Although, honestly, if you had a printer, you could probably do that already. Or if, like me, you have a friend with a printer. I have a friend who's been pretty generous with 3D printing me stuff when I asked for it. I asked him to print me a few extra war bikers for my orcs, and he didn't exactly say yes or no, so I kind of wonder if he's doing it or not. Oh, he was just stuck home with COVID. I should have hassled him more about it. Blendon, how's your night going? I'm having a good day. Work was pretty quick and easy. I thought I was going to have to go up on a 4th floor roof to clean some gutters, and when we actually got to the job site, my coworker said, hey, I'll do that. You just clean up all this stuff I'm throwing down on the ground from up there. So that was nice. Got to have work be significantly less dangerous than I was expecting. And it was over pretty quick. Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to fill out my time card. So I better do that. Oh no. No, we got one more job tomorrow. I'm good now that I think about it. Looks like this guy's got kind of an open vest. Can't see it too well, but I'll just shove my brush up there and kind of fill it in best I can. Generally with really hard to reach stuff, I figure if I can't really reach it easily with my brush, probably no one can see it anyway. So I don't work too hard or worry too much about those kind of areas. Blendin, we're working on catachans, but they're going to be used as conscripts for my new Imperial Guard army. I got my first 1,000 points ready for Imperial Guard, which is a Lehman Russ tank commander, 2 Lehman Russ battle tanks with all the fixins, and 2 units of infantry riding in chimeras. And I think that's it. That's my first 1,000 points. But it'll be fun to have a 20-man conscript squad to throw at people. Blendon says, I'm just hanging out tonight, not doing much. Sounds like you and Space get both. I'm waiting on all this new Eldar stuff to come out soon. Cool. I'm trying to remember what's the name of that Eldar vs. Chaos box set. Eldritch something? Anyway, it's looking pretty cool. Love the pretty much all the Eldar models that I've seen in there. Okay, I think we got another shirtless guy here. We're going to paint him that way. Eldritch Omens, that must be it. I especially like the new, what are they called? The Eldar Snipers? Pathfinders. The new Eldar Pathfinders look great. London, they announced an Eldar ability where they can move, shoot, then move again. Sounds really strong. It's just a base ability, no CP or anything. Well, I played against Tau with that ability back in 7th edition, and it, like, traumatized me. But it won't be nearly as strong in 9th edition because you want to end your turn standing on an objective in order to score it during the next command phase. And because of the pressure to remain standing on the objectives, there's not going to be as much opportunity to fall back out of range of the enemy, as you kind of got to stay stuck right up in their face in order to be on those objectives. And the other thing that's going to make it not quite as powerful as it used to be is the smaller boards. Like our 1,000 point games are played on just a 33 by 40 board, so it's almost like there's nowhere to hide. However, what is going to make it strong is the ability to shoot and then fall back behind some ruins that will then block line of sight so you can't be shot at all. That's going to be a good strategy as long as you've got something to sit on the objectives and get shot. You can definitely leverage that ability for some free damage that way. Keep some units safe out of line of sight behind a ruin and just plink away every turn, pop out, shoot, pop back. My Drukhari have that ability on, I think any unit, but it's a stratagem, so you pretty much only get to pick one unit to do it every turn. And usually I use it on Scourge, or Scourges. They're like a winged infantry unit that can take a lot of weapon upgrades. So they're very handy to keep alive because you tend to pay a premium for each one based on their weapon upgrades. And then most of my other stuff is sitting in transports, which can actually take a little bit of a beating. Are you going to pick up that Eldritch Omens box set with Chaos and Eldar, or are you just going to wait for the Eldar to hit separately? Or you could get the box set and split it with someone, or sell half of it on eBay. And do you ever play any 40k video games? Blunden? SpaceGet said he's a big Dawn of War 1 fan, but he never got into tabletop yet. Alright, there's a base coat on that guy. Tabletop expensive, yep. I have gotten into picking up models on eBay, which can save you money, but then again, it can also get expensive if you develop kind of an eBay addiction like I did. Alright, this guy's wearing a vest, I guess a black vest, so we'll just try to not paint that. And did you have anything to contribute to the discussion of Warhammer 40k Burnout, Blunden? Have you ever experienced that? I think my kind of 40k Burnout this week was partly just feeling like I'm running out of topics to discuss on live stream, and feeling like live stream was kind of like a lot of pressure to come up with something to talk about and to talk for 2 hours, and kind of feeling like a little bit over it. And then I've been very focused on my career this week, trying to decide if I want to try to get a job selling cars or Toyota trucks, or if I want to become an electrician, as I feel like those are two careers that could both bring in a lot of money, and they'd both be sort of very challenging in different ways, and would both take up a lot of time in different ways. And I actually had a job interview at the Toyota place, and I canceled it because I was more leaning toward the electrician route. But then I started doing more research on that, and I was seeing, okay, it's actually pretty involved, looking at 5 years of apprenticeship before you can really be an electrician. And I found out that the apprentice program, at least the what do they call it, union program, can actually be very competitive and might take months to get into. And I need to go back and request like a high school transcript and stuff like that in order to apply for it. So thinking, oh, maybe am I making the wrong decision? Is selling cars sounds kind of easy by comparison. So thoughts on that? SpaceGet says, I feel bad for the Primarch of the Ultra Smurfs, what he awoke into. Well, he pretty much awoke into getting to be the Emperor. He's pretty much in charge of half the Imperium now, so that's kind of cool. And I guess he has like kind of an Eldar girlfriend. So there's that, and the Imperium may not be like he remembers it, but at least it still exists. There's still human beings. And him and his brothers are all super famous. So he's like a galactic celebrity, which I guess he was already before he went into a coma or whatever. I guess he got poisoned. Well, they cured his poison, so that's something else. But, yeah. I guess all that responsibility, kind of feel bad for that. He does not have a Eldar girlfriend? Is that what you're saying, Space Get? LMAO? Is that something I just get from memes? That's not perfectly accurate? We could talk Primarchs. Dark Angels are waiting for ours to come back. The Lion, who is hanging out in the belly of the rock somewhere. The Dark Angels asteroid fortress. And we're expecting Leman Russ to come back eventually, as he basically promised he would come back, or he was prophesied to come back in the Wolf time when the Imperium was at its greatest need. So I'd kind of like to see the two of them come back together in like a storyline that involves both of them coming back and having a showdown of some kind. And as far as Loyalist Primarchs, I think we're also under the impression that Jangatai Khan could come back. Primarch of the White Scars. He's either lost in the Webway or possibly in Trazen the Collector's collection or something. Thought I heard that Trazen has a Primarch in his collection, but I could be wrong. Alright, that's 4 down. 2 more for this flesh tone. Now I gotta drink my latte faster because it's right at that point where it's still warm. But it won't be for long. In the book, there's no tension between the elf and the Ultra Smurfs. No tension? You mean like no romantic tension? Or do you mean like they just get along really well and it's like not at all weird that there's Eldar and Ultramarines just hanging out? I think this guy has a collar around his neck of some kind. Maybe we'll call it like a bandage. I think this head is actually not from a 40K model. And it might be just a tad small, which kind of works fine on a big muscly guy. Just makes him look bigger and stronger, but it might be a head from a wounded Roman legionnaire from a slightly smaller scale of miniature. Looks like he's got hair. I guess let's paint the arms. And, oh, maybe he is bare-chested also. It was thank you and no problem between the two. That's funny. There must have been something somewhere to give people the impression that they're boyfriend, girlfriend. Or is that, have people just gotten that totally wrong and kind of run with it? You guys might be interested to hear about the Warhammer 40k mod I made for Axis and Allies. So basically it was a board game and kind of simulating the entire galaxy at war. I didn't put every single 40k faction in it, but I had a lot of them. I did not do Necrons or Dark Eldar, but you could play as Eldar, Tau, Orcs, Tyranids. I think that was all the Xenos factions. And then the Imperium factions were Imperial Guard, Imperial Navy, Mechanicus, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, and that might have been it. So I made kind of a space conquest game with all those factions, and I was quite proud of the mechanic I came up with for the warp as a way to kind of move around the board really fast. SpaceGet, they have shipped people who have never met. Yeah, alright. Shipping like shipping two characters in a romance. I got it. So the way I did the warp in the board game is that there's like a warp track that went around the edge of the board. And if you imagine there's like 100, 110 or something spaces on the warp track, each space, each hexagon or each square or whatever you could travel to in real space has a corresponding number. And there's way more spaces in real space than there are on the warp track, because the warp track is basically just one line going around the edge of the board, where real space is like more like a grid. So there was maybe 700 or 800 spots on the board and just about 110 on the warp track. So basically the numbers from the warp track would just repeat across all the real space hexes, and you could travel back and forth between the corresponding numbered hex in real space or on the warp track. So basically wherever you were in real space, there was exactly one spot on the warp track you could move into. But if you were in the warp track, there was about 7 different, or I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 different places around the board that you could come out of the warp. And basically that combination allowed you to get around the board quite quickly, because you basically just needed to move into the warp and then find a good spot to come out of the warp that puts you closer to where you're trying to get to. And it's a computer game called AAA. It's like a clone of Axis and Allies, and it would automatically calculate the shortest route between any 2 points you're trying to move your unit along. So basically it would calculate your warp jump for you and find the most efficient warp route. So that was pretty fun, pretty cool. Slow game to play. I don't think I ever played it like all the way through to like conquering the whole galaxy. Especially because you have to like wait through, 10 computer players to all take their turn. So it's pretty time consuming to play, but it was fun. Axis and Allies is already a pretty slow game with just 5 factions. This guy I'm painting is actually an old Gaunt's Ghost miniature. I think he's called Mad something. Mad Murdoch or something like that. I know that's the guy from the A-Team. I think he's supposed to be kind of a play on Mad Murdoch. But he's their crazy sniper. This is the old metal version. Also, Necrons are really scary. I actually had a really fun game against Necrons. That's what I played against in my last game. Played Dark Angels versus Necrons. And it was super close game. While we were adding up points at the end, I thought we were tied until we kind of re-added the points, and it turns out I was ahead by just like 3 or 4 points, I think. Maybe 3 points. But super close game, super fun, very down to the wire, and a fantastic opponent, Dustin. Pretty much everybody I've met through playing 40K on live stream has just been awesome. But Dustin's really cool. Really happy to have met that guy. And he brought me a gift at our first game. Brought me a piece of laser cut terrain. Laser cut ruin that goes perfectly with the rest of my set. So that was really nice too. Really looking forward to playing some more games against him. And he encouraged me to go to Las Vegas Open. He said he's gone several times and highly recommends it. So that was cool. I've never been to a 40K tournament, except, like a local tournament just to watch as like a spectator. Stopped in and saw there was one going on and checked out all the tables. That's happened once or twice. All right, well, we got one coat on all those guys. Let's probably do a second coat before I put this color paint away. It's going to be fun to have enough conscripts I can actually run them. I only have 9 of those penal troopers, and conscripts you need a squad of at least 20, so I haven't actually gotten to use them yet. Actually, I haven't even played Imperial Guard yet, so it's going to be a real first for me. I think my first time I play will probably be that list I described with the 3 Lehman Russ tanks and the 2 squads of infantry and chimeras. Nice, easy little 1,000 point list that won't be tough to play or to learn. Then I'll experiment more with mass infantry or other kinds of things. I'm also trying to find a couple of cool like attack helicopters that are in the right scale for 40K to use as proxy vulture gunships. I just felt like that would be really fun to have kind of like a planetary defense force with some actual helicopters. A little bit of an anachronism in 40K, but not too bad. Space Get. Like, lore-wise, the Necrons, if all Tomb Worlds woke up and didn't have all the waking up issues, they would be able to deck the Imperium. Probably. The fact that their warriors can basically just rebuild and come back, phase out and get repairs is pretty tough to beat from a lore perspective. In our ongoing narrative campaign, we do have a Necron Tomb Moon in the system. Our campaign system is called the Icarus system. It's like a Imperium star system in the sort of remote northwestern fringe of the galaxy, between the Halo stars and the Segmentum Pacificus. And it's been pretty much ravaged by chaos, but the Mechanicus moon in the system we decided was actually a Necron Tomb moon all along. This was way back playing games against an old opponent, David Hodson, who hooked me up with my Orc army, actually. And he played Necrons, so that was a storyline we came up with, but we've just been kind of rolling with it for playing more games with Necrons. Although Dustin wanted to have his Necrons be more like interstellar Necrons who show up in a space fleet, so that's cool too. That'll give them real freedom to attack any planet in the system. And I did make kind of a cool piece of Necron terrain a while back too. And my friend Mark also plays Necron, so I got him a monolith for Christmas. So I haven't played against that yet. That'll be exciting to do at some point. Monolith just got a big points drop, which will be good for him. But while we were getting ready for the game against Dustin, him and I were discussing the lore of that moon with the Necron tomb complex, which is called Rast Moon. And I liked the idea that basically Rast has been just embroiled in war against the Necrons for like 100 years now. And the human population has pretty much ceased all productive manufacturing, and now they're mostly like hiding out in caves and underground and fighting, kind of like those scenes in Terminator where you see the war in the future against the machines and how humanity is kind of on the brink. That was kind of the inspiration we're going with for Rast Moon, where the Necrons are waking up. And I decided that's going to be where my Scions, Tempestus Scions regiment is going to be from. And since Rast is kind of like a Mechanicum moon, they'll have like all the best equipment and hotshot las guns and stuff, because they're based on a Mechanicus moon, and because they're constantly fighting against Necrons, they'll also be like super battle hardened. Kind of what I'm going for with them. I got some of the old what are they called? Kasserkin for my Scions. Very excited about those. Might start painting those next week. We'll see. Space Cat. Also the fact that the Necrons made towers that shrank the Eye of Terror. What? Oh yeah. You're talking about the pylons on Cadia. Not sure how the timeline works out for that. I thought that the Necrons all went to sleep, and then the Eldar Empire rose up, and then the Eldar Empire was destroyed when the Eye of Terror got created. So then did some Necrons come along after that and build the pylons? Or was that like something that predated the Eye of Terror, or what? I'd built a piece of Necron terrain that was kind of inspired by pylons and stuff. I'm trying to think of what the what you call this thing I made. I made kind of a tower, kind of a pylon, but it was based on this Lego thing that recreates this sort of weird physics puzzle where you have an object hanging in midair by 3 chains, but it's hanging downward from 2 of the chains, but it's hanging upward from the 3rd chain. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's like a kind of looks like it's defying gravity when you look at it. And it sort of stays upright using the like tensile pressure of its own weight. I gotta make sure and use it as terrain in one of our upcoming games with Necrons. That would be fun. These guys are going to look a lot more finished once they have their skin base coat. Three more for a second coat. Space Get. I assume the Eye of Terror was made, then the Necrons, that I assume awoke to the creation of the Eye of Terror and made the pylons. Oh, that makes sense. Makes sense that would wake up some Necrons. So I have been feeling a little bit of burnout regarding my Drukhari. I haven't played them probably the longest of any of my factions. I've been pretty excited about Orcs and Genestealer Cult lately, and now Imperial Guard. And I've still been getting a lot of play in with my Dark Angels because one of our house rules is Imperium versus non-Imperium in every game. So if I'm playing against Xenos or Chaos, I've only had Dark Angels as my only Imperium faction to choose from until these Imperial Guard are ready. So I've basically been playing them a lot just because a lot of the people I've been playing against are playing non-Imperium. So they had some games versus Necrons recently, and before that, what was it before that? Certainly Tyranids and Chaos against my friend Mortimer. Oh, Eldar, that's right. Played a few games versus Eldar recently, so I was playing my Dark Angels for that. And they've kind of always been my main faction because they were my first. But Drukhari haven't really been calling my name recently, partly because they're kind of at the top of the food chain right now in terms of power. So if I'm going to play them, I kind of feel like I'm being a power gamer. I liked it better when they were like the lowest strength faction, because then I would feel like, I'm always the underdog when I play them. Although that's quite a while ago now. But I'd say also I just have never really connected super strongly to the Drukhari lore. Even my own like custom lore for my Drukhari is that they're not exactly the most evil of evil. They're more like explorers who hate the Dark City and try to spend as little time there as possible. Or else they're enemies of Asdrubal Vecht, Lord of the Dark City, and they're trying to get away from him. However, I did order some Drukhari custom dice for my custom Cabal, and so I am excited about that. Maybe when I get my Drukhari dice in, that will kind of reinvigorate me to play Drukhari some more. And I do have some Drukhari models to paint that I'm quite excited about. I picked up the old school Drazar and the old school Lilith, Master of Blades, and I gave each of them kind of a modern update with the arm swap, and I'm excited to paint those. I also picked up some Witches and a Void Raven Bomber, so maybe I just need to have some like Drukhari painting week, and that will get me back into playing Drukhari again. in terms of ways to break out of what's the term? 40K burnout. Like, I don't think it's necessarily something you have to break out of. Like, if you're just not really feeling it with 40K at a particular time, I mean, it's usually cool to just take a break, come back to it when you feel the desire. But one thing you can do is switch which faction you're working on or collecting or painting or playing. Like, starting this Imperial Guard army has kind of helped my burnout a bit. And switching to painting Imperial Guard has kind of reinvigorated me a little bit to paint. Oh, okay, Space Get. Because the Necrons went to sleep after they rose up against the people who made them metal. Oh, okay, you like deceive them. And then the Silent King went into the void to be sad. Oh. Another option for 40K burnout is just to power through. I'm kind of doing that today too, which is to just paint minis even if you don't really feel like it. As far as things to force yourself to do, it's not that hard. And kind of forcing myself to keep live streaming too, even though I wasn't really feeling it this week. I went ahead and just started my stream pretty much on schedule last night and today, and figure if I'm not super feeling it, I don't have to stream as long, but might as well try to stick to my schedule as long as I can. And I made my top discussion topic yesterday was the joy of 40K, to try to cheer myself up and give myself some motivation. And then my topic for today is 40K burnout, so at least I can kind of talk about and think about this issue and maybe get some encouragement or some other people's ideas, or at least talk about what I'm experiencing. And I think burnout is probably also a thing that a lot of streamers experience. I think when you first start live streaming, you kind of have this fantasy in your mind that you'll become super popular and you'll have, comments flying in on your live streams, and next thing you know, you'll be making tons of money and have thousands of followers and viewers and subscribers. But there is a fair amount of work involved, and it's kind of like a job where you show up to work and you don't get paid when you start, so that can be a little bit discouraging. And I'm not very good at the sort of office work, I guess, like setting up donations and professional PayPal and all that stuff is just a big hassle for me. I need like a secretary or accountant or someone to do that stuff. Space Cat. Then the Silent King saw the Nids and was like, "Oh no!" and ran back to the Tomb Worlds. So he's trying to wake everybody up or something? And is he like king of all the Necrons? Yes. Okay. All right, moving on to the next color skin tone here. Kind of the medium brown. Or light brown, I guess. And kind of hard to tell, but I think this guy's got like an open vest. This would actually be kind of a good color brown to use on all their like bags and bandoliers and stuff. Or maybe I'll come back to that and just do skin tone for now. Sometimes with batch painting, it's better to just stay focused on painting one thing on every model so that you don't get too bogged down in details. And then when you're ready to paint those little details, you just come along and paint that exact detail on every model. That kind of makes it go quicker. All kind of about efficiency. And it's kind of more efficient to just paint skin on all 15 models or whatever, rather than skin and straps, if you follow me. But batch painting is the best way I've found to speed up the process. Takes longer to get a finished miniature because you're doing several at a time, but in terms of painting whole squads, it seems to be much quicker. And part of the benefit is not having to wait for anything to dry, really, as you can be letting 10 miniatures dry while you work on the 11th and 12th, and then go back to the first one, and it's pretty much ready for the next coat. Wonder what he's got on his wrist. It looks like he's got a little wristband, but I'm not sure what it would be. Jewelry? A watch? None of that makes a lot of sense. Is it just a leather strap? Like a bracelet? Or is he supposed to be wearing little gloves? Not exactly clear. Alright, well that's one coat. We'll come back to this guy and do another coat in a few minutes. I'll go ahead and grab all the guys with this, this color skin tone, and put them in a little queue. I got the habit, I guess, of calling a line a queue after going to England a few times. Anytime people line up for anything, they call it a queue over there. Okay, does this guy have a shirt on? I don't think so. All right. I might also want to do light brown straps and pouches on the guys with dark skin, and dark brown straps and pouches on the guys with light brown skin, just so that it's easier to differentiate what you're looking at. Space Get, do you think you're going to play Space Marine 2 when it comes out? I did play the first Space Marine. It was pretty fun. I actually kind of liked the multiplayer mode. Probably more than the single player. I used to be a big Counter-Strike player. And my favorite kind of multiplayer is team versus team elimination, where players don't respawn until the end of the round, as I find it very exciting when a team game comes down to just 1 or 2 players left, or 1 person against 5 or something like that. It can get quite exciting. One time I almost won a game of Counter-Strike where it was 1 against 8. My teammates all got killed very quickly, and I found myself alone, last man standing, against 8 enemy players. And I think I killed all 8 of them. But unfortunately, I planted the bomb, and one of them defused the bomb. So I lost the round, even though I think I eliminated the entire enemy team. And boy, was my heart racing. Having everybody counting on you, knowing you're the last one alive, enemies all around, can get very exciting. I think it would be cool if there was a Warhammer game like that. Pretty much all the multiplayer ones I've seen, players respawn pretty much immediately after they die. Which, in my opinion, makes the game less exciting, even if it's more action-packed. As it means there's very little sort of cost to dying, which sort of weakens the excitement of it. Might be cool to see them make another Dawn of War game. I think the Relic Studios went out of business or something. Closed down. But I think the rights still are floating around somewhere where another company could bring back Dawn of War. I've always wanted to see a game like StarCraft 1, but in the Warhammer 40k universe. Like an action strategy, real-time strategy game, but with sort of simple graphics, but lots and lots of unit possibilities, you know, like kind of like in Dawn of War 1, where they had almost every faction and they had tons of units for every faction. I'd love to see something like that, where they just keep the graphics simple enough that they can really churn out lots of options for units. I always thought that would be really fun. Could also be cool to see a 40k video game that was more like tabletop. I know Tabletop Simulator does it very well, but you could have something that's a little slicker than Tabletop Simulator, that doesn't exactly have dice or anything, but is more of a turn-based strategy game where you really could think through every move and simulates the sort of scale of battle on the tabletop a little closer. Tired of games where you control squads of like 3 Marines. Give me my squads of 10 Marines like on tabletop. You could kind of simulate that in Dawn of War 2 by combining multiple squads. But I think Dawn of War 1 you could get big squads of Marines and stuff like that. But I guess I was going to say, being kind of focused on my career this week and on making money has also kind of given me a little bit of 40k burnout, where I'm just not as interested in my hobby because I'm kind of focused on other things. .40k can be kind of a distraction from regular life, real life. And distraction sometimes is something you really need, but sometimes it can become too much, or, you know, sometimes you don't want to be distracted. You're more focused on other stuff, and you don't feel the need or the desire to kind of escape into the grimdark world of the 41st millennium as much. That's kind of how I've been feeling last week or two. And I've been loving my getting to play games on live stream. That's been super exciting. But I've also felt a little bit of the thing where when you do your hobby kind of more as a business, it can kind of suck some of the fun out of it. I kind of feel like I've seen that a bit on from other like YouTubers too. I feel sometimes like the joy is gone a little bit for some of those guys, like Winter's SEO. Sometimes I feel like he is sort of forcing himself to keep doing the YouTube thing even when he's not really feeling it. And I kind of also got that sense a little bit from the Spider on Tabletop Tactics. He's really kind of like my YouTube role model. And sometimes he seems kind of tired of it. And like he's sort of getting more other people on the channel and you don't see him as much anymore. And I kind of feel like that's because he's over it a little bit. I think he's got a kid and a wife, and he's probably just got a lot of other things on his mind. Not as much digging the 40K now, I don't know. And we saw that from Bone, his partner on the show for a long time. Eventually quit the show before they got some of this new blood in. And who else was I thinking that? Maybe Matt from Mini Wargaming. He certainly seems like he's kind of taken a step back from playing 40K on YouTube. They hired another guy to kind of be their 40K bat rep guy. And Dave still seems as into it as ever. And he's quite excited about his new Ravage Star game that he's been working on. But Matt kind of disappeared a bit from the YouTube channel, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if he was kind of experiencing burnout. And there was someone else who seemed like they were kind of a little burned out. Who was it? It's escaping me at the moment. But I think we all kind of have experienced that in one way or another. Like I would get sometimes video game burnout on certain games and just have to like switch it up and play something else for a while. And ultimately I got kind of burned out on video games in general. Feeling like, I had better uses for my time and playing video games a lot. I had kind of like not a lot to show for it. And I did live stream gaming for a while. And it was kind of fun, but I do feel like maybe that helped contribute to burnout a bit. And I actually took down my old video gaming videos, and I regret it a little bit. Some of them had a lot of views, especially the videos I did for Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator. And I felt a little bit of pride in my videos that I'd made, but I kind of took them down partly just to start this new adventure of doing Warhammer 40K content on Twitch and YouTube, and felt like I wanted to sort of make a fresh start. But maybe it was a little bit impulsive of me to go ahead and just take down all my old videos. I'd always hoped that I'd make some ad revenue from them, but I never did either become popular enough or figure out the trick to collecting ad revenue. I think in my whole time on YouTube, I had only ever made up to like 70 cents or something in ad revenue, like not enough to even bother trying to claim it. So that was kind of disappointing. I think the sort of real best way to make some income from this kind of thing is with a Patreon. So I do have kind of on my to-do list to set up a Patreon, but I have not done it yet. like I said, I kind of struggle to get some of that kind of administrative type stuff done. And now that I think about it, I need to do my taxes too. Need someone who will just do all that kind of stuff for me. All right, 2 more for their first base coat in this flesh color. One thing that's kind of helped keep me a little bit more motivated with Twitch streaming is just kind of participating with other streamers. Even just hopping in someone else's live stream for half an hour before my stream kind of gets me a little bit pumped up to live stream. And before this, I was just watching a few minutes of a battle report to kind of get hyped, get pumped. Looks like we got another shirtless guy here. So I guess watching other people's content might be one way to kind of break out of burnout. Of course, taking a break, just stepping away from 40K or video games or whatever it is in general for a week or two can also kind of snap you out of it, make you excited to come back to it after a while. Or maybe you take a break from it and realize you don't want to go back to it. Guess that's always possible. But it doesn't really hurt to take a little breather or detox or whatever. Reevaluate what you want to be spending your time on. Could probably zoom in on these guys a bit more, but I'm afraid I'm going to wander off camera with the miniature if I'm too zoomed in. One of my little cheats or tricks I have for myself is I painted this channel logo on my painting mat, and I keep the camera zoomed in on that, and then I know if I keep the miniature more or less over the logo, I'll be on camera. Usually it works, but sometimes I catch myself wandering off camera as I'm turning the miniature over or getting too focused on what I'm doing. Have you guys been watching any good shows lately? I've been watching more movies rather than shows lately. Kind of got burned out on Netflix. Felt like I kind of watched everything I was interested in on there, and there was nothing else that looked good to me. And sometimes some of these new Netflix shows, I'll just give them a try, and I kind of find myself getting kind of bored within the first episode and don't make it any further than that. I really kind of tried to get into The Witcher. I'd like to support our good friend Henry Cavill, who's a 40K player, and I guess the Bard on The Witcher also plays 40K, which is cool. But that show does also get a little bit annoying at times to me. And what I've really found myself enjoying is like movies from the 80s and 90s. And it's kind of hard for me to say why. It's not like it's all nostalgia, although maybe that's a little part of it. But I kind of feel like I'm seeing something in those movies that is kind of missing from movies today, and I'm not sure exactly what it is. What was that one that I really enjoyed? This was longer ago. It was probably almost a year ago, but I watched Fright Night. And I'm not talking about the Colin Farrell remake from 10 years ago or however long, but Fright Night from the 80s. And that was really fun. And I had that sense of like, oh man, they don't make movies like this anymore. Part of it is kind of a feeling of innocence with the characters. Like, all the characters in TV shows these days are kind of like jaded and modern or something. And not sincere. And that's my best effort I can do to kind of describe what I was seeing and appreciating in the older movies. But this week we watched Hook. That was really fun. With Robin Williams. It was quite a trip to see Hook again after a very long time. Probably about 20 years since I saw it but the last time. So it was not at all fresh in my memory. And it was almost like watching it for the first time again. The only scene I really remembered pretty well was the introduction of Rufio, where he's skating around the camp of the Lost Boys on this crazy wooden racetrack. And pretty much everything else in the movie was like I had forgotten. So that was quite fun. Watched the original Predator a couple weeks ago. That was always fun to see that movie. And there was a lot of scenes there that I felt like I was, had kind of forgotten. It was really fun watching their attack on the sort of rebel camp. That scene is pretty wild. And what else? I watched Casino for the first time with Robert De Niro. This last, like a week ago. That was kind of fun. Oh, and I also watched The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. And that was really surprisingly good. It really held up for being as old as it is. But I'm definitely open to any YouTube or movie recommendations, especially stuff I can watch for free. I don't have a Hulu subscription or a Prime subscription at the moment. But a lot of times I can get movies free on demand. Oh, and I showed my roommate my favorite movie, Willow. From, 1988 or something like that. Love Willow. It's such a charming film. Has that same feeling of kind of sincerity and naivety and kind of honesty. That's kind of missing from a lot of movies these days. Kind of a wholesomeness, I guess. But that is one I could pretty much watch any time, any number of times. Alright, so doing the second base coat on these guys with the light brown skin. Giving him a second coat, just 5 more to go. Then we'll move on to the guys with the really dark skin. Do one more batch. That'll probably be it for this painting session. That'll feel like some good progress if I get the skin base coated on all these guys. And who knows, maybe we can finish them all up tomorrow. Depending on how ambitious I feel. If I do paint all these guys, I think I'll have a squad of 27 conscripts. So not quite a full 30-man squad, but pretty close. Of course, they have a terrible morale, so enemy just has to kill about 3 of them, and then you're going to lose at like 10 from them running away. Or I guess not quite that many. You'll lose one out of 6 of the remaining. Alright, I think that guy's good. So 40k Burnout. Of course, there's always the option of selling your 40k army or trading it for somebody else's collection to get into something new if you're burned out on one particular faction. Has crossed my mind to sell my Drukhari, and then I would be down to 2 Xenos factions and 2 Imperium factions, which I think is a pretty good number. Having 3 Xenos factions sometimes feels like a little bit overkill. Or like maybe I would rather have a Chaos faction, a Xenos faction, and 2 Imperium. That kind of seems like kind of the best combination you could have for flexibility of different storylines and matchups that you could play. I sometimes wish I did have a Chaos faction. And I think I would be either looking at Tzeentch Demons, Nurgle Demons, or Chaos Space Marines. Those are kind of my favorites. Alright, just 3 more to get a second base coat here. This guy's actually a Catachan Sniper metal model. Picked him up to use him for a Genestealer Cult Sanctus sniper. And I was going to do 3 different styles of Sanctus Sniper, since that's how many copies of a data sheet you can use. And then I realized I kind of made a mistake, because with Genestealer Cult, you're only allowed 1 copy of each character per detachment. So I actually couldn't use 3 Sanctus Snipers unless I ran 3 Genestealer Cult detachments. And that is possible to do, but I definitely felt like it was kind of a mistake to make 3 of them. So I figured I could spare this guy for my conscript squad. And I think I'm still gonna have two Genestealer Cult Sanctus snipers, so if I do want to run multiple of them and I'm running a couple detachments, I can at least do two, which is probably enough. Genestealer cults have so many cool characters, it's kind of like easy to go overboard on characters, and I'm probably never actually going to want to run 3 Sanctus snipers, but it would be kind of cool to be able to put down all that auto hitting firepower now. Alright, 2 left. Feel like I'm speeding up on this skin tone stuff, which is part of the benefit of batch painting. The more you do, the faster you go as you kind of get the hang of which parts of the model you're picking out with the paint. But especially putting down a second base coat goes quicker than the first. You don't have to be as careful, you don't have to hit every little bit. You can almost kind of dry brush it on. Alright, I think we are pretty much good there. And one more for a second coat. He really needs it. Spaceca, if you're still around, I'd be curious to hear what would be your dream 40K video game. If you're a big Dawn of War 1 fan, would you just want to see an updated version of that with better graphics or bigger maps or better maps? Better animations? Or is there something else that would be kind of your dream 40K game? That could be almost like a whole live stream discussion. What would be your dream 40K game or video game? I always thought it would be awesome to have a 40K game where you would have like huge numbers of troops fighting. Like some of the old kind of box cover art where you see like hordes of hundreds of Marines and Imperial Guard and stuff just all firing their guns at once in a huge crowd. Alright, moving on to our next color. And looks like we got 6 more guys to do skin tone on, and we're going to move on to the darkest skin tone. This is going to be Gorthor Brown, and once it gets a ink wash, it'll be looking kind of like this. Let's see, it's out of focus. There you can see Gorthor Brown with like a Agraxer shade ink wash on it. Makes a nice dark skin. shake. All right, let's get on it. The last color for today's little batch painting marathon. Might have had that a little bit too watered down. We'll try to add some thicker paint here. I'm thinking that one answer to kind of live stream burnout would be to just not worry so much about having a discussion topic and being willing to just sit and chill and paint quietly, not feel like I have to monologue the whole time. I think that would make it a little easier to kind of keep myself on schedule and make myself sit down and do it if I didn't quite feel that pressure of having to be entertaining nonstop, whether or not there's anyone watching. Because the most fun part is interacting with people. And I feel like on YouTube, my live streams are not like super popular anyway, so putting in a lot of effort to have a good discussion topic and keep talking is maybe not that important. As I feel like what I kind of always set out to do was to do live stream battle reports, and the painting streams have always been kind of just a side thing to practice live streaming until I get enough skill to be able to do the battle reports. And now that we've done several battle reports, I feel like, do I really need to keep live streaming my painting? And if my painting live streams don't get as many viewers anyway, it doesn't really help me as far as my Twitch account is concerned. I'd be better off streaming less to more viewers with live 40K games compared to painting, I assume. Alright, there's one. Maybe we'll have him hang out down here. One of the more interesting 40K games that is not actually made by GW is like Chapter Master Simulator. I don't know if you guys have ever come across this one, but it's like a game that's sort of based on like the soccer manager type simulator games. But you are managing a chapter of Space Marines. So you decide like what campaigns they're going to get involved in, and you... I don't know. I don't know all the details of it. I've just checked it out on YouTube a year or two ago. It looked kind of fun. What would my dream 40K game be like? I always thought it would be cool to have a game that was kind of like a real-time strategy game played out between tons of players in like a big expansive universe that's kind of like an MMO, but one side could win, you know? It wouldn't be set up so that it would be just a constant stalemate forever. Like, you would make it so that it could stalemate to some extent, as long as all the factions were kind of like trying, but that if one side could potentially have better organized players, they could theoretically defeat the other factions and win the game, conquer the galaxy, or what have you. I always thought that would be pretty cool. Have players in kind of a hierarchy where the longer their player survives, the higher up their rank can get. But then if their character dies, they have to like start back over as like an average space marine or whatever. So you would have like the chapter master of a chapter would be an actual player, but if his character died, the next highest ranked space marine in that chapter would become the new chapter master. And in that way you would get to like rotate who's making the strategic decisions. I think that would be pretty fun. I also think a game that where you had like kind of like Star Citizen but for 40k would be pretty sweet, where you could have everything from commanding a big capital ship to flying an individual fighter craft to fighting on foot as a space marine, or like in space in 0G with a jetpack or something like that. 40k Star Citizen would be freaking awesome. Star Citizen, I don't know if you guys have been following it, is a super ambitious game that's been in development for several years now, but it's actually turning into a thing you can play finally. And they have all kinds of different starships of vastly different scale. And you can also move around as an individual on foot on board a big spaceship, which is very cool. Kind of necessary for like a next gen sci-fi war game, I think. There was that attempt to make a sort of action MMO based on 40k that was kind of a flop or never finished development. Can't remember what it was called. But they're working on having like Titans and stuff marching around in that one, if I remember. And maybe they were just like too ambitious, not focused enough on creating a playable game. Star Citizen really seemed like it was going to be too ambitious, and it was never going to get finished for quite a while. I had a friend showing me previews of Star Citizen like 4 or 5 years ago. But they just kept at it, kind of slow and steady. Hey, we're getting through it, like us, with this batch painting. I do miss hanging out at the actual hobby shop and painting with other people. I used to enjoy doing that back in the before times. Did that less and less once I had my own place. I would prefer to host games of Warhammer at my house rather than at the hobby shop. But it was a nice place to go and paint and have some connection to the hobby community. I guess now I kind of get that off of Instagram. Could always do an Instagram live. That would maybe even be an alternative to doing live stream painting, as I'd probably get more viewers on Instagram than on Twitch. Have about 250 followers on the Challenger Tabletop Instagram right now. And that is a good place to reach out to me if you want to discuss 40K outside of live stream. Or if you're in the Portland, Oregon area and you want to set up a game. Always looking for more challengers for the channel. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Of course, you do get exposed to some amazing painters on Instagram who put me and my speed painting to shame here. And on Twitch, I've gotten to see a lot of really skilled airbrushers. Also a skill I have not developed yet. Realizing that you kind of need to have like a respirator to do airbrushing definitely makes me less interested, as I really would not enjoy having to wear a respirator the whole time I'm doing hobby stuff. And kind of same thing with 3D printing. Wouldn't be excited about having all those 3D printing fumes building up in my living space. Although I've heard some people say that it's not that toxic anymore, depending on what kind of resin you get or something like that. So hopefully they're making some progress in those regards. All right, 2 more for their first base coat of skin here. How are we doing on time? Been painting for about 1 hour and 45 minutes. So we might get all these guys done in about 2 hours. That'd feel good. This guy's gonna have a black tank top on. Had a nice dinner tonight, made some chicken cheese pizza. Or I guess you just call it chicken pizza. I forgot to put pepperoncinis on it though. But it had onions and garlic. Made on my homemade sourdough crust. It's really good. I like to think I make the best pizza crust in town at this point. This guy also has kind of a bracelet of some kind. Not sure what's going on there. Alright, I think we got him base coated. Moving on to the last one. Then we'll have to go give all of these guys a second coat, and then we're done with the stream, done with the batch for tonight. I miss my buddy Mortimer. Haven't played 40k with him in too long. Used my hardcore 40k opponent last year when we were getting together every Friday for a while. But he's had COVID for about 2 weeks, and so that meant we had to cancel the one game we did have planned. So that was unfortunate, but sounds like he's all recovered now. Or at least he's no longer positive. Hopefully he doesn't have loss of taste. I should ask. Although I think I would have seen him mention it. It's kind of hard to ignore. I had loss of taste when I had COVID. And boy did I complain about it to pretty much everybody. As it really did impact my quality of life. And I just learned last night that apparently astronauts experience loss of taste while they're in space. Because without the sort of pressure of gravity, they get more buildup of pressure in their head and their sinus. And that can actually kind of cut off their sense of taste and smell. So astronauts have like a bunch of kinds of hot sauce on the space station so that they can smother their food in hot sauce, so they'll hopefully be able to taste a little something. That was kind of funny. I definitely tried that when I had COVID, putting like red pepper flakes all over my pizza, and I would be able to taste a little something when I did that. Alright, moving on to the second coat on these guys. Mortimer was joking he's discovered a hobby more expensive than Warhammer, which is firearms. But he seems to be having a lot of fun with that. And I think that looks fun. I would enjoy learning how to shoot a gun. I even think hunting would be fun. Here in Oregon, there's a bill proposed that would make hunting, like all hunting, illegal. Along with like gelding farm animals, and artificially inseminating farm animals would be classified as sexual assault. Thought that was kind of a shock. They want to make Oregon an animal sanctuary state. But it's not going to stop people wanting to eat meat, I don't think. Which would mean that all the meat consumed in the state would have to be imported from outside the state, which would make it less sustainable, more expensive, and would burn a lot more fossil fuels. And I feel like all the supporters of this bill are mostly going to be people living in Portland, and all the people affected by it would be all the people who don't live in Portland. So it's not exactly a kind of local representation. It'd be more like people forcing a law on people who don't live anywhere near them. and kind of banning something that they're not interested in but is kind of part of a way of life for a lot of people. Although I suppose most people who do go hunting could afford to get enough to eat without doing it these days. But you never know what the future might hold. Of course, at the point where people are having to go hunting to survive, the wild animal population will disappear pretty quick. My brother said when he was in Russia, pretty much all the animals in the wild had been hunted to near extinction. Alright, we're on the homeward stretch here. 4 more models need a second coat of their skin tone, and then we are done with the batch for tonight. And I would say these models are probably approaching half finished. Once you get to the ink wash, it goes super fast. And before I can ink wash them, I just want to paint like some straps and what do you call them, pouches and belts, metal knives, a few little silver details on their gun, and maybe some brown boots or vests or bandanas. And then that's about it. So I do think these guys are probably half done at least. Now that we're getting the skin tone done and the gray is pretty much done. One thing that does make it easier to keep this live stream going is just that I would probably be painting anyway for my own hobby enjoyment and army progress. And doesn't hurt to have like kind of an excuse to keep up the regular progress either. But sometimes I don't paint because I'm not live streaming, thinking like, oh, I might as well save my painting for the live stream. And other times if I want to paint and I don't feel like doing a live stream, I'll just work on something that is kind of like just a chore, like painting the bases, for instance. I guess I do wonder if maybe I'm not cut out for live streaming, or if I shouldn't bother if I'm not very popular. Sometimes, like, live streaming can be kind of a feel bad thing. If no one watches, no one comments, you sometimes feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this, or why bother? Reminds me of something that actor said. What's his name? Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the actor, did a TED Talk on getting attention versus paying attention. And he said basically, like, anytime I've been trying to get attention, it is kind of a hollow, needy, kind of a bad feeling. Whereas when I give my attention to something or someone, it's kind of a wholesome, fulfilling feeling. And that all this kind of focus on trying to get attention in what's been called the attention economy on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and these other places can have kind of a negative psychological effect on the individual. And it can kind of leave you kind of drained, whereas giving your attention to someone else can kind of fill you up a bit. Thought that was very interesting TED Talk. I do recommend it. Oh, hey Space Cat, thanks for the follow. Very much appreciated. You having a good night still? I'm actually at the very end of this batch paint here, doing the very last guy. Second coat on his skin tone. Well, thanks for hanging out today. It's been fun. I guess we'll show off a couple of the guys for our progress here. We'll get one of each skin tone. How about? So here's how they're looking currently. Here is with the Kislev flesh. Here is with the XV88 brown. And here is with the Gorthor brown. And the skin tone will look better once they get a shade paint. I'll probably be using this Reichland flesh shade on the guy with the lightest skin, and Agraxer shade on the other two. So that'll probably be tomorrow night. And maybe I'll even get these guys all totally finished up tomorrow. We'll see. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks. Space Cat says they look very nice. Nice. Well, it was fun. Thanks for hanging out today. I guess I'll switch back to main cam here. Thank you for joining me for Challenger Tabletop painting stream. I really ought to figure out how to do a raid. That's something I've never done yet and would help to build a little feeling of community. But in the meantime, have a great night. See you next time. And looking forward to playing some live 40K on Saturday and I think also next Tuesday. So have a great one. Bye.